Welcome back to the Deep Discog Dive. If I can share just a bit of wisdom from my 4 years of life on this earth, it's that the universe is so much bigger than just ourselves. It behooves all of us to recognize the grand and mysterious puzzle in which we all fit. So when I stumble across videos of people dressed up as cartoon characters, lip-syncing to Airplanes featuring Hayley Williams of Paramore, I mean, if you think about it, all of human history was leading to that. Today, we're talking about Paramore. Let's dive in. Franklin, Tennessee, 2002. While attending private school, brothers Zach and Josh Farrow met a girl who had just moved from Mississippi, Hayley Williams. The three started playing music, separately at first. The Farrows practiced together, and Hayley sang in a funk cover band with Jeremy Davis. Eventually, the four joined together, plus Jason Bynum, to form Paramore, even though the boys were, quote, edgy about the whole female thing. I say the same thing about my toasters. The group performed around Tennessee, including a spot at Warped Tour. In 2003, Hayley entered negotiations to sign with Atlantic Records. They wanted to make her a solo pop star, but she wanted to prove her songwriting chops with Paramore. So in 2005, the band was picked up by Atlantic's subsidiary, Fueled by Ramen. Though it's worth noting that it was only Hayley Williams who signed the actual contract. But I'm sure that won't lead to any issues down the road. The gang went down to Orlando, Florida to start work on their debut album, but almost immediately after getting there, Jeremy Davis left the band. The now quartet decided to conceptualize their first album around Davis's departure and absence. Wow, so it took Pink Floyd 8 albums to write a whole record dedicated to a previous member, but Paramore got it on their first try? Paramore confirmed better than Pink Floyd. For the love of God, I am just joking. Let's hope this is the last major change to the band's lineup. In July 2005, the band released All We Know Is Falling. Just listen to lead single Pressure, and you can feel their grief over losing Jeremy. Okay, maybe not that line. Yes, in tandem with Jeremy's absence are themes of growing up and being a teenager. Now I know what you're thinking, how dare these teens feel feelings? But yet, even at a young age, Paramore showed a great ear for melody and dynamics, especially on the choruses. One listened to the hooks on Conspiracy, All We Know, and Emergency, and I was humming them for the rest of my day. Also, Franklin is a nice ballad dedicated to where the band grew up as they process their sudden rise to fame and leaving home. Beyond the energetic guitars and drums, I gotta lay down a scorching hot take. Hayley Williams is good at singing. Not only can she belt like a belt, but her ability to switch effortlessly between performance intensities helps differentiate more intimate passages from the loud and bombastic moments. So yeah, she's good at singing. I suppose if there's any shortcoming to this album, in my opinion, it's that its goodness never rises to greatness. It's a solid album, especially considering that it's their first and how young they were when they made it, but to me, it mainly represents the first step towards getting on the Guitar Hero World Tour soundtrack. While it wasn't a massive commercial hit, All We Know Is Falling garnered Paramore a solid audience, in part because Fueled by Ramen opted to grow their fan base through word of mouth instead of traditional promotion. The band brought in John Hembry to play bass on tour, but only 5 months after leaving, Jeremy Davis came back to the band. Paramore para-toured for good chunks of 2005 and 2006. They even released the Summer Tick EP during their time at Warped Tour 06. The most notable song on it being a remixed version of Emergency. The EP isn't available on streaming, but I've left a link in the description if you want to check it out. Also in 2006, Jason Bynum left the band due to personal reasons and was replaced with Hunter Lamb on guitar. 2007 came around and Hunter Lamb also left the group to get married. He was replaced on guitar by Taylor York, who had played in bands with the Farrows before. Let's hope this is the last major change to the band's lineup. Paramore's second album, Riot, was released in June 2007. The title, according to Hayley, was meant to represent how the album was, quote, an unbridled outburst of emotions. The opener, for a pessimist I'm pretty optimistic, kicks the album off with a bang, and somehow the rest of the album maintains a consistent anthemic energy. No matter what Hayley is singing about, you can feel the emotion cranked as far as it can go. I love how the verses and That's What You Get are in 3, and then the chorus is in 4. It makes the choruses feel way more cathartic to me. I love the bridge in Crush, Crush, Crush with the group chants. I love how intimately Hayley sings on When It Rains and We Are Broken. I love the chorus on Miracle, especially that turnaround. And of course, we need to touch on the band's signature hit from this era, Misery Business. Now, Misery Business occupies this interesting place in Paramore's discography. On one hand, it's an absolute rager musically speaking. Right from its opening drum hit, the song is just hook on top of hook on top of hook, with excellent performances by all involved. I also never appreciated how rhythmically demanding the vocals are, which makes them really fun to sing along to. So yeah, it's the best embodiment of that ethos Hayley was talking about with the title. On the other hand, like some unbridled outburst,
second chances, they don't ever matter, people never change. What's the horror, you're nothing more, I'm sorry, that'll never change.
some parts of it haven't aged all that well. Yeah, Misery Business is, in hindsight, a teeny bit misogynist. Not horribly so, and you could make the point that the rest of the song nails a certain teenage pettiness very well, for better or worse. Plus, for reasons I'll touch on later, the band has absolutely grown and matured since this song, but still, it's there. Personally speaking though, Misery Business was featured in Guitar Hero World Tour, so it's pretty much a musical cornerstone of my adolescence. You'd be surprised what else makes that list. If there's one slight I can offer against Riot, it's that while the album fires on all cylinders, it doesn't really stop firing at any point. You may like it for that exact reason, but you might also feel like the album doesn't change things up enough to stay interesting. To offer a modern comparison that no one has ever made before, Olivia Rodrigo's Sour. Some might consider them one note, and sure they do focus on one primary thing, whether it's Riot's Always at 11 emotional intensity or Sour's romantic heartache, but they do that one thing very well, and it's why they've become touchstones for their respective generations. At least Riot has. Riot was a smash hit for Paramore. The band toured both the US and Europe in 2007 and 2008, though they had to cancel 6 shows during the European leg of the tour, and rumors spread about how it was due to Josh Farro's frustration with the media's focus on Hayley Williams. The most notable release of theirs between albums was the single Decode, written for the first Twilight movie. It's the brand synergy for me. This could have easily fit onto Riot, and it has such a great chorus. In late 2008, the band's first live LP was released, The Final Riot, a pretty good live recording, featuring an interpolation of Leonard Cohen's Alleluia into their own Alleluia. Man, what would you even call that? For their third album, the band started recording sessions in Franklin, Tennessee, but after a visit from producer Rob Cavallo, they decided to move recording to California, with Cavallo as main producer. If his name sounds familiar to you, it's probably because he worked on many of Green Day's biggest albums. In September 2009, Paramore gave us Brand New Eyes. Thank God I won't need these anymore. When asked about this album, Hayley and Josh described it as a maturation from Riot. Where Riot songs focused on anger, a lot of B&E songs try to show some growth from that anger. And the band show that not only through their lyrics, but their songwriting, which incorporates more acoustic textures. So that's great, right? And with the matured perspective, that would mean my one main criticism of Riot is gone and that this album is perfect, right? Bold of you to think I'm ever happy with anything. What Brand New Eyes gains in more adult themes and composition, it loses in pure unbridled hits like Riot had. That's not to dismiss the songs on here though. Lead single Ignorance is a prime cut of Paramore's energetic excellence, Brick by Boring Brick has a great chorus, and songs like Looking Up and Misguided Ghosts are among some of the band's best deep cuts. But many of the other songs, to me, can feel like Riot 2.0. I should also mention the album's big hit,
The only exception.
I've always been a fan of this kind of love story, the kind that acknowledges how loving someone can open yourself up to pain, but how the right person can make it all seem worthwhile. It's basically the song version of Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind. I love that movie, and I like this song. Heck, even its Glee cover is good. If I may once again do a Compare Morrison to an album made by a teen star this year, Brand New Eyes reminds me of Billie Eilish's Happier Than Ever. Do either albums have the sheer number of outright hits that their predecessors had? I'd say no. But to make up for it, the songwriting as a whole is more cohesive and confident. They feel like the records both artists needed to make to show they're in it for the long haul. And if you look at it in that way, I'd say Brand New Eyes is a success. The band went on a lengthy worldwide tour to support B&E. For a few shows, Josh Farro stayed behind to get married, so Taylor's brother Justin filled in. As they were on the road, we got one of Hayley's first features as a solo artist. Or I mean, she was still credited to Paramore, but still. Airplanes by Reluctant Globetrotter B.O.B. was one of the biggest songs of 2010, with an instantly memorable chorus and so much potential for videos like this.
We pretend that airplanes in the night sky like shooting stars.
Then, suddenly in November 2010, the band posted a message on their website saying that Josh and Zach Farro had left Paramore. The remaining members wished the Farros well and reaffirmed their commitment to their fans and to their future tour dates. All well and good. right? So remember when I said that Hayley was the only one actually signed to the contract with Atlantic and Fueled by Ramen, and how that surely wouldn't lead to any issues down the road? Well, you're gonna wanna sit down for this one. Josh Farro released his own statement shortly after the band's, which basically boiled down to, no. He said the band was a major label fabrication and Hayley treated Paramore as the backing band to her own career. He even said that some of Hayley's lyrics on Brand New Eyes contradicted the Bible. Needless to say, the remaining members of Paramore responded with a no you. They did an interview with MTV confirming that Hayley was the only member signed to Atlantic, but that Josh's statement was irrelevant and they had addressed many of the complaints he had levied during the course of their time together. Let's hope this is the last major change to the band's lineup. Despite now having as many pharaohs as an empty Egyptian tomb, the band confirmed new music was on the way. First in 2011 was the track Monster, featured on the Transformers Dark of the Moon soundtrack. We then got 3 singles released between October and December 2011, Renegade, Hello Cold World, and In the Morning. Those 3 songs would be combined into the Singles Club EP. And they're fine. In 2012, we got Hayley's second big pop hit as a solo artist, Stay the Night with Zedd. Maybe it's because I'm a sucker for Zedd's early 2010s output before he locked in on pitched down intros, ticking clocks, and vocoder breakdowns, but I like Stay the Night. We also got news that the band's 4th album would be produced by Justin Meldal Johnson, producer for Wolf Alice, Deaf Heaven, and M83's Hurry Up, We're Dreaming. Random fun fact, Midnight City turned 10 years old this week, and off to my ancient tomb I go. After 2 singles, Paramore released Paramore in April 2013. For some reason, when I was younger, between BNE and this self-titled, I thought Paramore had basically sold out and gone the same pop way Fall Out Boy were going. Then again, this was me in the early 2010s. I wouldn't have been too focused on Paramore. I would have been more focused on, I don't know, Ben Folds 5 reuniting or something. Lucky for me, this album was described as a reintroduction to the band. This was still Paramore, it's just a version of Paramore that isn't confined to emo rock. Who knows, they might even use synths, those sick freaks. What makes this iteration of Paramore different to me is the newfound space in these songs. Old school Paramore was right in your face when it came to both composition and production, but on tracks like Last Hope and The Closer Future, Paramore 2.0 give these songs more room to breathe, so you can notice new things about them. For example, Jeremy Davis, he's on bass, and he's good. I hadn't really noticed until this album. What also helps is who's on the drums. Since Zach was gone, the trio brought in Elin Rubin, who had played with Nine Inch Nails and Angels and Airwaves. He brings a greater, or at least more immediately apparent, complexity to the drums, which gives tracks like Now and Daydreaming even more drive than they already would have had. Part 2 might be my favorite deep cut on the record, especially that last minute where the guitars sound so dense, with Rubin flying across the drum kit. And in case you're wondering, it's the part 2 to Riot's Let the Flames Begin. But while this new Paramore is different, they have not forgotten their ear for hooks, which is best exemplified by the 2 biggest singles, Still Into You and Ain't It Fun. I adore Still Into You. The lyrics about keeping the love for a close partner, the stellar chorus hook, Hayley's outstanding vocals, the 2-clap in the second verse. I'm telling you, that's the big money move. And Ain't It Fun is based on Hayley's experience relocating to LA. It starts with xylophone and ends with a gospel choir. The definition of blasphemy makes way more sense now. But for real, it's a great infectious bop. And it's also their biggest hit yet according to Billboard, which surprised me. I thought it was still Misery Business. I suppose the biggest complaint I would levy against this album is its length. I don't think it needed to be over an hour long, but I also don't know what I would cut from the track list. Maybe one of the interludes? Oh yeah, this album has 3 ukulele interludes, which means even I could be a Paramember one day. But overall length aside, Paramore the album is exactly what Paramore the band set out to make, a reintroduction, and it's great to meet them again. Paramore embarked on a lengthy tour, including their first ever cruise ship festival, Parahoy. My dream job of making up puns for Paramore cruise ship concerts continues to elude me. However, in December 2015, Jeremy Davis left Paramore for a 3rd time. Wait, when was the second? Okay, so the second time Jeremy left was right before they started work on Riot. Apparently it was due to Jeremy's work ethic, and they resolved it pretty quickly. But Jeremy's third departure is unique because he also sued the band. First in an attempt to be considered co-owner of the band, then when that lawsuit fell through, he sued both Hayley and Taylor for ownership and financial gain from the self-titled record. Because of these lawsuits and a divorce, Hayley Williams' mental health took a toll, and she quietly left Paramore. Which means, for a very brief time in 2015, Taylor York was the only active member of Paramore. Think about that for a second. Taylor could have put out any music he wanted to under the Paramore name in that period. He could have put out the Balkan Dance album that he possibly maybe has always wanted to make. And then I would have had to cover it in this video. Before Taylor could realize his potential maybe dream, in early January 2016, Hayley rejoined and announced a fifth Paramore album was in the works. Throughout 2016, teaser images started coming out from the recording sessions, featuring Meldal Johnson returning to produce and Zac Farro? His appearance got Paramore fans in a tizzy, which led to the announcement that Zac was rejoining the band. Let's hope this is the last major change to the band's lineup. In May 2017, Paramore dropped their most recent album, After Laughter. Now this album, sonically, is the biggest change they've made to their sound so far. The album takes production cues from new wave and other 80s inspired sounds, but I'll posit that the core DNA of Paramore is still present. It's just that now the guitars have flangers on them. How could they sink so low? Another question, why wasn't lead single Hard Times a bigger hit? Why wasn't it? How did we stray so far from God's light? Any song with Hayley Williams going needs to be a top 10 hit. Also, it's such a small moment, but I love how Hayley sings this line.
Tell me that I'm alright, that I ain't gonna die.
As you might have guessed from Hard Times, the main lyrical focuses of After Laughter are depression, anxiety, the internal battles we fight with ourselves. Told You So would be a fairly depressing song about pessimism if it didn't have catchy hooks and some of Zac's best drumming ever. Pool uses a metaphor to describe an all-encompassing love that could potentially drown someone. Terrible Blue Haven commercial, great song. Idol Worship is effectively Kill Your Heroes the song, and it segues nicely into No Friend, featuring Aaron Weiss from Me Without You. And Tell Me How is probably tied with Future from the self-titled for my favorite closer on any Paramore album. I think the band's willingness to talk about these topics, when paired with the chipper 80s aesthetic, make for some of the most emotionally resonant moments on any Paramore record. Here's a personal example. This album came out right about the time I graduated from college and moved to a new place for an internship. On the road trip to said place, I was on a section of Route 95 in New Jersey that's pretty much a giant straightaway. It was at this point when the song 26 came on, an acoustic ballad about holding on to hope as an act of defiance against someone or something that just wants to tear you down. And hearing this song at a time when I was anxious about my own future, it was a quietly powerful moment, one that I had never really felt with Paramore's music before.
But I wouldn't care what it cost me.
No joke, I think this is their best album so far. It may not be the most emblematic of their whole career, but as its own thing, it shows how dynamic and malleable Paramore as an entity can be without sacrificing any integrity in their songwriting. Right around the time when After Laughter released, the band and Jeremy Davis reached a settlement in private. Paramore went on the road throughout 2017 and 2018. It was during one of these shows that Hayley announced they would no longer perform Misery Business because of the misogynist undertones.
I think, to put it really simply, calling someone a whore just isn't very cool.
And honestly, kudos to them. Misery Business is still one of their most well-known songs, so no longer playing it live takes courage. 2020 saw the release of Hayley's first solo album, Petals for Armor. Sonically, it's quite distinct from her work with Paramore. Imagine the introspection of After Laughter with the melancholic production of, say, Phoebe Bridgers, who actually guests on this record with her Boy Genius bandmates, Lucy Dacus and Julian Baker. I was gonna see Hayley on the tour for this album before, you know. Later in 2020, Hayley teased a sixth Paramore record, one that would be inspired by the band's earlier days. There was also this statement of support Hayley put out for their LGBTQ fans. Certainly a nice gesture, but some saw it as a response to a comment Josh Farro had posted on social media. I'm not gonna show Josh's full comment, but let me put it like this. It was about gay people, and it was written by a guy who once said Hayley's lyrics contradicted the Bible. Make of that what you will. Shortly after, Zack stated that he did not condone Josh's blog post from 2010 and that he too supported the LGBTQ community. We got another Hayley Williams solo album earlier this year, and that's been it so far. A new record is coming at some point, and will hopefully continue Paramore's no-miss streak. Though, in all sincerity, I hope they're okay. The band has been plagued with personal problems basically since its inception, so I hope the future for them from here on out is much more peaceful. If you want to get into Paramore, I'd say start with Riot and the self-titled. I'd also throw After Laughter in there, but with the disclaimer that it's the most stylistically different album they've made thus far. And if you have a favorite Paramore song, album, related thing, I would love to know what it is in the comments.